Yoga philosophy is the philosophy of union, philosophy of integration. Integration means full coordination of body and mind in the state where the body is functioning in full potential, mind is functioning in full potential, environmental values are extremely useful. So the coordination of mind and body extends to coordination of body and surroundings and the whole universe. So one is able to derive maximum advantage of one's environment, one's body, one's mind, when one's self has been completely realized and has begun to be lived in daily life. Living that unboundedness, one lives infinite purity in life, and in this state, body is fully useful, mind is fully useful, environment is fully useful, all this. And in order that one derives fullest value from all these different aspects of life, inner and outer, in order to derive maximum value of all these various aspects of life, inner and outer, we must have the knowledge of integration of all these in the structure of individuality. All these various aspects of life, universal, environmental, bodily, mental, spiritual, all these must be coordinated, brought together. Brought together where? On the level of awareness. And this is integration, this is unity, this is yoga. So, the philosophy of yoga demands unbounded awareness to be established in a permanent way so that the individuality and universality are brought to be lived simultaneously at all times, whether the individuality is at rest or in activity. But the universal value should not be lost. For this to happen, body must be extremely pure, nervous system must be functioning most normally, and mind in that state will naturally be fully expanded. Consciousness will be fully alive. It will happen simultaneously and naturally. In that state, one would allot maximum value to the environment. Environment will respond to one in the most profitable way. So this is called unity, yoga, integrated state of life. Now these are how many aspects? Universal aspect, environmental aspect, body aspect, mind aspect, being aspect. All these different aspects are there, and they all have to be integrated. They all have to be brought on the level of living. No aspect of life should be out of living. All aspects of life should be incorporated in every phase of living, and that living will be integrated. Towards this achievement, yoga philosophy aims. Now, when the aim is living this full value of life, then how to go about that? The perfection of the teaching is such that one could start from anywhere and achieve this goal. no matter from where one starts, one would achieve this goal. It is for this reason that the teaching has to be from various angles. From various angles, and it is this need for the teaching to become perfect. It must pick up any phase of life, and manipulation of that area of life should purify the whole of life. It is this many directional approach to integration that presents to us many systems of yoga, many systems of gaining perfection, systems that involve being. Take care of being only, and then see that being is on all fields of life. Take care of body and see that being, inner aspect of the body, and environmental and universal outer aspect of the body, both are integrated. Now in the body we have all this muscular area of the body, we have this breath area of the body. We have so many senses, different senses, they are part of the body. We have mind, we have intellect, we have ego. These are different aspects of the body. The senses, prana is there, and therefore, if the teaching of yoga is to be perfect, then any of these could be picked up, and working on that aspect, the whole life should be integrated. And the teaching of yoga is that perfect. One could start culturing the breath, and through the breath culture, the whole body could be purified, pure consciousness could become an all-time reality, response of the body to the surroundings, to the whole universe could be exemplary, ideal, perfect. Anything. If we take the mind, fine. We can take the mind and culture the mind and gain integration. Take the senses, culture the senses, sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell, any sense, and refine the senses. And in the procedure of refining the senses, the whole body would automatically be refined, mind will get that pure consciousness, infinite being would be lived through all phases of activity. One would gain integration. One could take the environmental values and start to refine them, and by way of refining the environmental values, by the path of refining the environmental values, the body would be refined, the mind would be refined, the senses would be refined, the prana would be refined, being would start to be lived in all phases of life. Universal and individual values will come to be together. Just these different values of life, one could pick up any, and from there purify all of them. This is the perfection of the teaching of yoga. Body is only physical, mind is only abstract. Pick up the body, refine the body, and the mind would be refined. Pick up the mind, refine the mind, and the body would be refined. Because life is never in isolation. This hand and this hand, they seem to be farther apart. Hand is separate from the legs, leg is separate from the nose. But they are all so integrated with one another that the culture of the hand would culture the whole body. It's possible. Refinement on the part of the legs would refine the whole system. One is so intimately connected, even though they are different limbs of the body, but they are so intimately connected with one another that if we could handle the main switchboard, the connecting switchboard, we will be able to have all lines cleared everywhere. Like that, all these different aspects of individual life, outer aspect, inner aspect, innermost aspect, the various aspects, any aspect could be taken up, and by that the whole thing can be refined. And it is this perfection of the teaching of yoga that presents to us various systems of purification, various systems of purification. Body, hatha yoga is a hatha. Hatha means force. You force, because now you want to bend the bones and you want to bend the flesh, and because this aspect of the path of integration demands that the body should be purified. Firstly, what you eat, and secondly, what you make out of what you eat, the digestive system. So Hatha Yoga prescribes so many methods, devices in order to purify the system and drain out the impurities. There are two things in Hatha Yoga. Make the body flexible and take out the impurities. They drink lot of water and take out the water, and they drink lot of air and take out the air. All kinds of purifying system on the physical level, purely physical. And as the system becomes purified through all these rigorous disciplines on the physical, then one starts to feel lighter, free from diseases, stresses go out, pure consciousness starts to be lived. But because it is the purification of the physical, takes very, very long time, and one has to go through rigorous discipline. To bend the body, how much it is difficult, everyone could imagine, in comparison to bending the mind. Mind you can bend any time like that. Body, very difficult sometimes. Sometimes you succeed in bending. And all these systems are based on one reality of life, that no aspect of life is disassociated with any other aspect. The table is there. You pull one leg of the table and all the three legs are coming to you without being pulled. Just because all the four are put together, they are hinged together, and therefore it's enough to draw one and all the three will come out. Purification of one sense, maybe sense of sight or sense of hearing, will keep on purifying all other senses, because even though each sense has its own characteristic feature, but no sense is completely isolated with others. It's there, connected with everyone. So, one system, any system, whether a system of purification of the senses or the mind or the prana, any one thing we can take and purify that, and the purification of that will creep in the other phases of life and will purify all phases. This is one reality of the perfect teaching. Another, you can combine two systems. Maybe something of Hatha Yoga, something of breathing, or something of breathing, something of mind, something of body, something of mind. Any of the two can be taken, or any of the three can be taken, any of the four can be taken. All these aspects can be taken together. All these aspects attended together can produce the same kind of result. Life will be established in the integrated state. And this is the purpose of yoga, union. Examining transcendental meditation in this context, we find, even though it handles one thing which is most flexible, there is nothing more flexible than the mind, up and down and anywhere without any pinch whatsoever. That being the nature of the mind, we like to go by that. Transcendental meditation handles the mind, and handles the mind on the basis of its own natural tendency. And therefore, just because the mind is permeating all aspects of one's life, outer, inner, everything, mind is all permeating. But because that all permeating value of the mind is not in our conscious awareness, and only some small individual aspect of the mind is in our conscious awareness. So we have only to expand our awareness till the all permeating value of the mind becomes open to us, and then the whole range of life is spontaneously integrated. Such a simple procedure of integrating the whole universal life with this minute individuality. The very fact that the mental aspect of life, the mind, is permeating in and out and everywhere, it is underlying all values, all phases of life, all those whom we want to integrate, all those whom we want to, all these different phases of life which we want to integrate. There is one thing that is present through all, and that is being, or the most refined value of the mind. And therefore, once we bring our awareness to that most refined value of the mind, to the field of the being, we have as if reached every home which we want to put together. All these different areas of life which we want to integrate have that value of the mind underlying them. And once we have taken our awareness to that level of the mind, all these areas are enlivened from inside. And this is what integration means. Nothing more to be done for integration of life. And that is why we accomplish this state of integration, this state of yoga, this state of putting together all aspects of life, or this state of enlivening all aspects of life and bringing everything to our awareness by opening our awareness, our individual awareness, to that level of universal awareness. And this is accomplished in such a beautiful, natural way that there can't be anything else which could challenge this natural procedure. Because firstly, it is most spontaneous and natural. Secondly, it is instantaneous. Because the reality of life is that all these inner and outer aspects are already connected to individual life. They are different aspects of individual life, and being so, it should not take anything other than the natural situation to start living them all together. This being the natural structure of life, the path of integrating them all is opening our individual awareness to that unbounded awareness. Both of these levels of awareness are different levels of one mind. Mind active, mind silent, that's all. What does it take to take the active mind to become silent? If the mind could be active, it could be silent more easily. For an active mind to be silent, what does it take? Just start resting and rest. This wonderful central point of all the teachings of innumerable systems of yoga. Just this. Active mind starts to rest and it rests. In resting, it opens itself to unbounded awareness. In so doing, all the phases of life which were not open to our awareness becomes enlivened, they open to our awareness, all value of life begins to be lived in every stroke of activity. The purpose of yoga is accomplished. In any other system of culturing the body or mind or prana or the behavior or the outer values of life, in culturing the mind, there would be so much of energy wasted and all. Whereas in this automatic procedure, the culturing of all these values take place simultaneously, completely simultaneous. Now, in principle, yoga philosophy, philosophy of integration. You have heard of Patanjali. Patanjali, how many of you have heard the name Patanjali? Eightfold Path of Patanjali. Patanjali has philosophized the whole principle of integration of life, not advocated any one system. Systems are taught by other seers, by other saints. Patanjali has only philosophized the whole thing. It is very wrong interpretation of Patanjali if we seek practices for culturing the body, for culturing the senses, for culturing the mind, for culturing the prana. If we seek practices from the eightfold path of Patanjali, we will be in a soup. And this has happened. Interpretations of Patanjali are found in the values of practices. But Patanjali would be feeling sorry for his advocates. Interpretations of Patanjali have misled the whole world. The purpose of Patanjali is not to promote or bring to light any practices. He just explains the principles. What happens in the state of yoga or on the path to yoga, on the path to integration? What happens? What happens is he counts 8 aspects. And these are the 8 aspects. He counts yama, niyama. The word yama means, it's a beautiful word that Patanjali uses for his first step. Administrator. Yama is administrator. And what is the administrator? What is the administrator of life? Being is the administrator of life. Being becomes a living reality. Being becomes a reality. And this is what the state of yoga is. He counts 5 yamas, 5 administrators. Satya, ahimsa, aste, brahmacharya, parigraha. Satya. That which never changes is satyam. Ahimsa. Non-violence. I would like to go deep into it, and it will be very beautiful. But don't blame me if you don't find these things in the interpretations. The books are highly misleading. From there we start. Satya is that which never changes. Truth. Truth is that which never changes. From here starts the philosophy of yoga. 8. Now, even before starting into details, let's see the name of Patanjali Yoga. The name is Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta means 8. 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. Ashta is 8. Anga means limbs. Hands, feet, this limbs. 8 limbs. Patanjali rises to describe 8 limbs of yoga. 8 limbs of the body of yoga. This is Ashtanga Yoga. Yoga has 8 limbs, means the state of integration of life has 8 aspects to it. 8 limbs. The misinterpretation starts right from here, and this basic value of the misinterpretation of the name has made the whole philosophy completely muddled. This has been interpreted as 8 steps to yoga. Ashtanga Yoga this name has been interpreted as bringing to light the 8 steps to yoga. 8 steps. Now you can imagine, limbs and steps are not the same thing. When the limbs develop, they develop simultaneously. Not first the hand is made, and then the leg is made, and then the nose is built. All of the limbs in the body develop simultaneously. But in the case of steps, they are one after the other. They are built one after the other, and they are used one after the other. And this is what has made a big difference. The philosophy of Patanjali is the philosophy bringing to light the 8 aspects of the state of union or integration. And if it is interpreted in terms of the 8 steps, then we would not know where the confusion will end. Patanjali does not denote that these 8, yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, these 8 names that he counts, he does not mean that these are the 8 steps to yoga and samadhi is the last step starting from yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara. All that is not right. Otherwise, if this were so, samadhi will never be reached. Because eighth step will never be reached. Because the very first step demands achievement of that which never changes. Satya. Satya is one of the 5 yamas. Yama is the first, which Patanjali deals. And 5 yamas there are. And out of the 5, the first is Satyam. Satyam is truth. Just truth. Simple truth. The truth is what? That which never changes. What is that which never changes? Being alone is that which never changes. Being is samadhi. Samadhi, Patanjali puts eighth limb of the body of yoga. But Satyam, being, he puts right in the beginning. This means the state of yoga is being at its beginning and being at its end. Being is all permeating, and this is the state of yoga, the state of union. Just a moment ago we said mind is all pervading. And opening that all-pervading value of the mind to our awareness enlivens all values of life. And this is yoga. The truth. From the beginning of yoga, the truth in the end of yoga. This is the state of yoga. If the truth has begun to be open to our awareness, the practice of yoga has started. And if truth has become permanently established in our awareness, the state of yoga is established. This is the beginning and end of yoga, integration. Transcendental meditation accomplishes this state. Right from the beginning of the practice, this unboundedness, transcendental awareness opens to our individual awareness, and opening our awareness to that, unbounded awareness gets established. And this is the state of yoga, union. When we say yoga, then we say that state. From here, from this state of being, the philosophy of yoga starts. And being can't be underrated for anything less than being. No. Generally, the practice of the Satya, the truth, generally it is advocated that first you practice speaking truth. Now you see what a damaging level has been brought to such a beautiful state of achievement. Being. Realization of being is taught in terms of realization of the habit of speaking truth. So crude. This is what the commentators of Patanjali have done to Patanjali. the practice of speaking truth is such a ridiculous thing. Speaking truth can't be practiced. What can be practiced is development of that level of consciousness which will always speak truth. So, the speaking truth, if it has to be practiced, it has to be practiced in the developing value of pure consciousness. If that level of consciousness is not there, one can't speak truth. There will be some lag to truth. So, the achievement of truth is not in trying to keep awake in order to speak truth. It will be such a strain, and then one would speak out something. Later on one would remember, oh, I should not have spoken this. So, the truth, value of truth is in developing pure consciousness, spontaneously, easily, comfortably living life the way it is. Therefore, the teaching of Satyam as one of the teaching of Yama is not limited to practicing speaking truth or seeing truth or whatever. But it is meant to be the state of awareness, and that is in the state of yoga. Such a natural situation in that state of integrated life. Not only you speak truth, but you smell truth and you touch truth, and you... When the conscious awareness is open to that pure consciousness of being, anything that you do as a wave of truth, and that is living the truth. Second is ahimsa. Ahimsa is non-violence. Non-violence. Quite a lot the word is being heard. The state of non-violence is a level of consciousness in which one always produces life-supporting influence. A state of life in which life-damaging influence can simply not be created. That is that state in cosmic consciousness where awareness is unbounded and one is just a witness to everything. One's whole aspiration of life, one's whole impulse of life is conducted by cosmic intelligence, and then every step of action is for evolution. Because under the spell of cosmic intelligence, everything is evolving all the time. So once that is taken over by the individual intelligence, anything that one could think or do will always be in the direction of evolution, spontaneous. And in this state of life, where one always produces life-supporting influence, non-violence is spontaneously lived. Only in that state non-violence is lived. Otherwise, if a man is capable of producing life-damaging influence in whatever small or big measure, then the violence is inevitable. Knowingly or unknowingly, doesn't matter. If I have hurt the man, either through a stick or through a negative thought for him, he has been hurt. And not only he has been hurt, the entire creation has been hurt. And this is violence. So when one is not capable of hurting anything in creation, then non-violence becomes a living reality. This is the quality of that level of consciousness which we say pure consciousness or pure intelligence or cosmic intelligence, which is only life-supporting. And this is the state of integrated life. Only in this state of integrated life, one would not be damaging in any sense any aspect of life. So non-violence means making permanent pure consciousness, gaining cosmic consciousness. Same thing is meant by Satyam, the truth, living truth in life, making truth a living reality of day-to-day life means gaining cosmic consciousness, gaining pure consciousness. Aste, third, aste means non-covetousness, non-stealing. You don't steal. As long as one is captivated by every object of perception, so long stealing is very vivid, clear. Everyone is a thief if one owns something that doesn't belong to him. What is the reality of belonging? Infinite value of the self alone belongs to one. And if one is not living that infinite value and is captivated by this possession or this possession, anything that one experiences overshadows being, then one is bringing to one's possession which doesn't belong to one. What belongs to one's status of life is self, unboundedness, being, infinity, immortality, being. That being one's home. If something else enters one's homes, then one is stealing other things. This state of life is only in cosmic consciousness, where one is only a witness to everything. One doesn't own anything. And non-owning is that aparigraha, not non-acceptance. You don't accept. You don't own somebody's property. Everything else in creation belongs to relativity, change, and one is not non-changing self. And if one usurps the value of change, then one has stolen that, has possessed that which doesn't belong to one. And this is aparigraha. Therefore, in the real sense of the word, in the true sense of the word, one is a thief as long as one has not risen to cosmic consciousness, because he is bringing to his home a property which belongs to something else, self and non-self, possessing something, owning something. In this sense, Patanjali says non-covetousness is the quality of the state of life in yoga. In the state of unity, one is fulfilled, self-satisfied, and doesn't possess anything that one is not. Because in that state of unity, anything is not out of one's own being. Everything in terms of being, everything in terms of the self In this state, everything, whatever it may be, is no more different from oneself, and therefore having everything all to oneself is a reality in this state of yoga. And this is a state where one has gone beyond the boundaries of covetousness. One has started to own everything in its reality. This is unity consciousness. Nothing is out of myself. And in this state alone, where there is nothing out of myself, where myself is everything, in that state alone, one has risen above that value of covetousness. Otherwise, if myself is infinite and something is finite and I possess that, then it is possessing something which doesn't belong to oneself. The property belongs to the three gunas, to the field of change, and I start to possess it, and therefore I am not living that value of aparigraha, non-covetousness. This is the vision of Patanjali, state of yoga, where one has possessed everything, and therefore one has risen above the possibility of covetousness. One is living non-covetousness in that state of fulfillment where everything belongs to one. As long as this state has not come, integration has not accomplished, yoga has not accomplished. So, all these values, satya, ahimsa, aste, all these values are the values of integrated life. And if one starts to practice non-covetousness, it will be a surprise to a modern man if he is given the teaching to not steal. See, I am not stealing, I am not thief. How more I can practice this non-stealing? There is nothing to practice about it. One is not a thief anyway. So what is there to practice? And the whole thing becomes muddled. And the society is such, one doesn't have to be taught that he has not to steal. Nobody steals anyway. By nature, there is no non-stealing. So, if the philosophy of Patanjali describing that non-covetousness is taken to be the need of practicing non-stealing, it will just be an absurd thing for any civilized man. Every one of these phases, I think we'll take them, they're so interesting. Should go deep into it, and then yoga will become so clear. And all these innumerable systems of self-evolvement or gaining integration found in the market, they will all fit in some category pertaining to body, or pertaining to senses, pertaining to behavior, pertaining to this and this and this. And once we have the overall vision of the whole yoga philosophy, we can sort them out very easily, put them aside. And when we compare it with transcendental meditation, we don't find them any worth whatsoever. So, we'll be clear about what yoga is and what that philosophy teaches, and how much misinterpretation has gone in this field. And it is the interpretation of this yoga philosophy which is the basis of all suffering in life. Man being immortal, infinite, unbounded being, suffering on these small areas here and there. One doesn't deserve all that. So, we'll make it clear on that.